Call to order the Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, February 17th, 2022. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Brown, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Commissioner Knobloch.
Here.
Commissioner Heikkila.
Here.
Commissioner Bradley. Not here. Commissioner Casey.
Here.
Commissioner Schmolke.
Here.
Commissioner Geisler.
Here.
And Chair Schwartz.
Here. All right, our first order of business this evening is to adopt our agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Heikkila, second by Casey. Any discussion, changes? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And agenda is adopted. Next, we have the approval of the minutes of our January 20th, 2022 meeting.
I'll motion to approve the minutes from the January 20th meeting.
Second.
Motion by Schmolke, second by Geisler. Any corrections or additions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? And the minutes are approved. Our first order of new business is election of the vice chair for the coming year. Do we have any volunteers or nominations?
Chair Schwartz.
Commissioner Knobloch.
I nominate Ron Bradley.
Have you talked to him to see if he wants the position?
I talked to him, but we have to see if he's, his decision, if he'd be doing it.
He's not on Zoom, is he?
No, sir.
Okay. Then I nominate Kathy Casey.
I was going to nominate Mr. Bradley too, but he's not here. So,
Do we have a second for
I second. For Commissioner
Casey?
Casey.
Chair Schwartz,
Commissioner Schmolke,
can I enter a nomination?
certainly.
For Chris Geisler, please.
And is there a second on that motion?
I'll second it.
All right,
I've served as a vice chair at one point just a couple of years ago. So we tend to rotate it around, and Chris, you haven't yet, have you?
I have not.
Well, then, yeah, I'll second that
all
motion.
right. Well, we have two nominations. Do we have any additional nominations?
I'll
And-
withdraw mine. Is that suitable to do that? Can I withdraw that?
Well, we can certainly
You
have
can still have
a,
a vote.
we can have a vote.
There's something, he has something to say.
Okay. We have,
Commissioner, or Mr. Bucciaconi.
thank you, Chair Schwartz. I think the body has 3 nominations currently. Commissioner Bradley, Commissioner Casey,
Commissioner Bradley was never seconded.
okay, and Commissioner Geisler. It sounds like Commissioner Casey wants to address either her motion or her candidacy.
Yes, I guess I do. I will withdraw my candidacy in lieu of, in lieu of favoring Chris. I think I seconded that motion, so. Is this confusing enough?
Yeah.
Welcome, Commissioner Bradley.
My apologies, computer problems, trying to print everything out.
Now that Commissioner Bradley's here, Commissioner Knobloch, do you wish to renew your,
I'd like to renew my nomination for Ron Bradley for vice chair.
Is there a second for that motion? Hearing none, I guess we will just go with the motion for
Chair Schwartz,
Commissioner Knobloch.
I'd like to nominate myself, put my name forward.
All right, do we have a second for Commissioner Knobloch?
Second?
Okay, we now have two names in consideration, Commissioners Knobloch and Commissioner Geisler. Do we normally just do a voice vote, or should we do a secret ballot?
I would suggest you do a voice vote.
Okay.
We're kind of in an uncharted territory.
Yeah, well, to my knowledge, we've never had two nominations, or multiple nominations,
Yeah,
put it
you're
that
right.
way.
I don't think we have.
All right, we have two nominations. Commissioner Geisler, all in favor of Commissioner Geisler?
Aye.
Aye. Maybe we should have a roll call on that one. Commissioner,
I can call the roll if that
All right.
works for you. Commissioner Knobloch,
Nay.
Commissioner Heikkila,
Aye.
Commissioner Bradley,
Nay.
Commissioner Casey,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmolke,
Aye.
and Commissioner Geisler,
Aye.
and Chair Schwartz.
aye.
And that
I don't
motion
think we
carries.
need to have the second roll calls, since we have, what, 5 votes there?
It's 5-2.
So our vice chair for the coming year will be Commissioner Geisler. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Our next order of business is consider adoption of our 2022 Rules of Order, Internal Procedure, and Policies and Code of Ethics. We can take these all together, or do we need to take them individually?
Oh, you can take them all together.
All right. Commission,
Chair Schwartz,
Commissioner Schmolke.
motion to adopt the, how do we just bundle them all together as the, I should get my glasses on. The 2022 ethics, 2022 rules, and 2022 policies.
Second.
Motion by Schmolke, second by Geisler. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And those are adopted. All right, our first case for the evening is planning case 22-4, a site plan for a new warehouse building at 3745 Main Street. Mr. Brown.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is a site plan application for a new industrial warehouse building on property owned by Federal Cartridge or Vista Outdoor. You might remember last month, the commission considered a rezoning application for this site. Again, just north of Main Street, west of Round Lake Boulevard, about 30 or so acres for the total disturbed area. Just to refresh your memories on the zoning situation at this location, the underlying zoning of the property is industrial. Back a number of years ago, an overlay district was added known as the North Star Business Park overlay to Federal's property, which the entirety of which it covers about 75 acres, with the intent to transition that area eventually to other uses. So that rezoning application came first. The commission recommended approval of it. That was to remove the overlay district from that 30 or so acre area, so it would be zoned straight industrial to accommodate for a new warehouse building. The city council introduced that ordinance a couple of weeks ago at its February 2nd meeting, considered it again earlier this week on the 15th, and ultimately decided to postpone consideration of the rezoning, primarily to see kind of how things shake out with the planning commission on the site plan, the council, and I'll get into this a little bit more toward the end of the presentation, but the council had some questions about the site plan, and I think maybe a few of you do as well, so we can get into those in a little while. And just also to refresh your memory, as I mentioned, that overlay district ultimately envisioned transitioning this area to some other land uses. And this master plan submitted by the applicant shows how that new warehouse could be accommodated kind of on the southwest corner of the site. You can see it outlined there. It's in the area that is not shaded in a different color. And then the other shaded areas represent future land uses that would be other types of uses. So the red along Round Lake Boulevard would be eventually retail or commercial uses. The blue and orange represent more hotel, R&D, office type uses. So those could coexist with this new this warehouse proposal. So here is the site plan that's before you tonight. So Vista is proposing about 101,000 square foot building. Shown there as a future addition, they're intending down the road to expand that building by about another 101,000 square feet. Of course, this site plan is just for the first 101,000 square feet. You can see there the building is accessed from the existing traffic signal at Round Lake Boulevard and Riverdale Boulevard. Dock doors on the north and south sides of the building. There's also a road connection to a private railroad crossing that Vista has to its other properties in the city of Anoka, just to the west of here. The existing trees that are located and very visible from Round Lake Boulevard, for the most part, would be preserved as part of this, so they would provide a bit of a screen for the new building. Certainly it would still be visible from Round Lake Boulevard, albeit set back a bit. It would also be visible from Main Street as you come over the overpass there. The building includes just a small parking area. You can see there at the northeast corner, about 9 spaces, I believe it is. Obviously, under normal circumstances, a large industrial building like this would require 1 space per 1,000 square feet. Obviously, Vista has a large campus, most of which is in the city of Anoka, so there is parking over there. We did ask them, and it was included in your packet, to provide kind of a proof of parking exhibit to just demonstrate, if down the road they were to sell this building to a different user, if they didn't need it anymore, that the required amount of parking could at least be accommodated on the site. And our code does allow for a reduction in the number of spaces if it can be demonstrated that reflects the actual need, and staff is comfortable with that for this type of building. So overall, on the building location, kind of site configuration, staff is pretty comfortable. Here is the landscape plan. Since this building doesn't really have direct street frontage, or at least the disrupted area doesn't, there isn't a requirement for street frontage landscaping. There is a requirement for landscaping in the open yards of the disturbed area, and they're providing that they were a little under on the ornamental trees, although staff was comfortable since they're preserving so many existing trees to the east of the building. We're comfortable with the amount of proposed landscaping. Building elevations, and this is, I think, where we'll want to focus most of our conversation. They're proposing a precast building, as most new industrial buildings are. 2 different colors. You can see at the top there is the north elevation that would be facing toward Highway 10. That's where the main building entrance would be, at the northeast corner of the building. There'd be a metal canopy over that. We worked with the applicant a little bit to enhance that. The east elevation, that second row there, that's what would face Round Lake Boulevard. You can see the darker color of precast on the corners with the elevated roof line. There are periodic changes in color along that elevation, although it is generally a large expanse of precast. South elevation, again, you can see those dock doors. That would be generally visible from Main Street. And the west elevation looks kind of similar to the east elevation, longer, with changes in the color of precast. And you can see here is a building rendering kind of focused around the entryway. You can see how that kind of lines up with that existing tree line, and how that entrance would look, kind of give you a better view there. I think tonight we'll probably want to focus a lot of the discussion on the building design. And I will mention, just because of some conversations staff has had with the applicant in the last day or so, we're modifying our recommendation to you tonight, and that is to postpone consideration of the item to the March 17th meeting rather than making a decision tonight. The applicant, after some further discussions with staff, has agreed to modify the building design a little bit so that it meets these design requirements a little bit better, just because I know there have been some questions about that. And just for your information, and the applicant is here, so you'll have an opportunity to ask some questions of them. Would also be a good opportunity if you have specific concerns, specific questions about the building, we can talk about those. So again, for the building design, the first requirement, just compatible, complementary relationship with the surrounding land uses, variety of exterior materials. Second, addresses massing, which is kind of the staggering of building components, breaking things up, avoiding long expanses. Third, articulating building facades using different techniques where, we list examples of what that might be, but it could be a lot of different things. Fourth, variety of roof shapes. Fifth, and finally, including a focal element or feature around the building entrance. So those are kind of some things just to keep in mind as we talk in a little bit more detail about the building design. I guess at this point, I can take any questions, and certainly the representatives of the applicant are here and available for questions as well. Again, we're at this point recommending that you postpone consideration of it, but still recommend opening the public hearing and asking any questions or providing any specific comments.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown, I don't see anywhere any mention of a trash enclosure. Would that all be handled internally inside the building, or would there be an enclosure?
I believe that is the case, that the any trash would be handled in interior.
Thank you. Commission, any questions for Mr. Brown before we would hear from the petitioner?
Chair Schwartz.
Commissioner Knobloch.
I'd like to ask Mr. Brown, I know this is Phase A of a Phase B, an extension, an expansion beyond this. Is there any plans or consideration of how that what we're being presented today, how will that look with a Phase B addition to it? Will it be just larger, or will there be, what impact will that have?
Yeah, so obviously we have not been presented with any sort of building elevations for the second phase, although I think it would be likely, if we were to have those conversations with the applicant, that we'd be looking for something that is very consistent and similar in design to the existing building.
Yeah, my question, will it be just a potentially an expanded building, or is it just an addition, a second building? Will it be standalone, or will it be expansion?
Yeah, so what they're showing, and I just brought the site plan back up here, they are showing an addition that would basically double the size of the building with an addition onto the south. Okay. Obviously the specific needs for that building have not been established, so exactly where dock doors would be located and such would be something to be discussed at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Geisler.
Mr. Brown, given the potential development around the rest of this area, as we saw previously, would staff consider the front of the building to be the north side then, given that that's where the access road and ultimately as that would be built out? that would be considered the street face of the building?
Yes, that's generally what we're considering, in part just because that is where the front entrance is located. It is, obviously, this is a site that does not really have direct street frontage, so for some of the purposes of this analysis, that's kind of what we've determined.
Thank you.
So the picture that we're looking at is the front.
That's right, that's facing south from the northeast corner, yeah.
Is there any idea or plan yet as far as when the second part would reappear, or?
We can let the applicant address that when they come up. I don't have the details on that.
Any other questions for Mr. Brown? Petitioners like to come up and make a presentation of any kind? Please give your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, Matt. Commissioners, John Williams with Opus, 10350 Bren Road West, Minnetonka, 55343, I'm sorry. Matt, thanks for the presentation. Matt pretty well covered what we wanted to cover. He did mention that we met yesterday and had a discussion about how we might enhance the facade of the building, and we will study those options that we talked about and come back with an enhanced facade presentation at a later date. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Commission, any questions for the petitioner?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Casey,
So where do you anticipate traffic and how much traffic coming into that site? Or is it going to be kind of internal from the Anoka side?
Mostly internal. The truck docks on the north would be accessed via the Round Lake Boulevard access. Hardly any employee traffic. As you can see, there are only 7 parking stalls. So this is primarily a warehouse building for storage of raw materials for their products. The office space is only 1,200 square feet, so very few employees in the building. Most of the traffic that would come to the south docks would come from internal traffic to the campus and come from the west.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Geisler.
Mr. Williams, so just to follow that through my manufacturing background here. So your material flow is going to go from north to south, presumably with deliveries coming in on the north side and then being staged there to sit to then be brought over to the facility out the south?
I think that's accurate,
Okay.
yes.
So you're expecting that the bulk of the volume of delivery traffic is going to be coming in right off the north, right up by the front door there?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, the representative for Vista was going to be here, and he would be able to answer that in the affirmative, but I think that's the answer.
Understood. And then as far as dock location, I mean, obviously that's a very clear, easy spot to put it. But that's also the front of the building, and we tend to not like dock doors on the front of the building. Has there been any consideration of putting that on the more interior side, so that would be the westerly side of the building?
Yeah, our original plan contemplated putting the docks all on the west.
Okay.
And when they looked at how they wanted to stage the building and their flow, they asked us to change that to north and south because of how the building operates and the flow.
For the interior material
Yes.
flow? Okay. All right, that answers that. Thank you.
Okay.
Commission, any other questions for the petitioner? All right, thank you. We may have
Okay.
more later.
All right, thank you.
All right, at this time, I will open a public hearing in planning case 22-4 for the site plan for the new warehouse building at 3745 Main Street. Anyone present wish to speak at the public hearing? Anyone wish to speak at the public hearing? All right, anyone on Zoom for the public hearing?
No, sir.
Thank you. All right, at this time, we will continue the public hearing pending the decision to postpone the meeting or the site plan. Commission, any thoughts, comments at this time?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Geisler.
So I'm glad to hear that Vista would like to take a little bit to go back and sharpen the pencil on this, because I do think, especially when considering our partnering planning case tonight, we can do a little bit more to make this be a warm and exciting industrial building. Understanding that it's still an industrial building, but it will be the first thing in this place that we want to see developed and grow. I think Mr. Brown has outlined the various pieces as far as massing, as far as coloring, as far as striping, as accents, things to make this interesting. I do have concerns about the dock doors being on the north side right by the front there. Again, that's, if you think about, again, that hypothetical site, as people drive in to go there, they're going to be driving by dock doors, and that's usually something we want to avoid on a main drive. So I do think that is something that should be considered in that re-architecting of the building. But in general, you know, we know that Vista's been a great partner to the city, so I know staff will give you great guidance on this, but I'm all for postponing this tonight and giving them another shot.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Heikkila.
I also agree with Mr. Geisler, Commissioner Geisler, about this long span of a pretty bland building. So I'm happy to see that they may go back and find ways to enhance it, because I think facing the shopping center is not necessarily what we would like to have, this long building facing. I would like to have something that would connect or enhance or relate in some way. I realize they're not going to relate because one is a warehouse and one is a shopping center, but to drive down Round Lake Boulevard and see this long building is not something that I would look forward to.
Chair Schwartz?
Commissioner Schmolke.
So I'll just add in a comment, though. I really do like the renderings of I'm kind of a clean lines person, so I trust and I do appreciate that you're going to follow the guidance of staff, absolutely, because it's important, right? But I think that's what you kind of hear, though, is that there's going to be different opinions, right? So do use, what you're looking for as well, and keep that in, your design plans, because I do think that it's like everybody has different opinions, so.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Casey.
Yeah, and to that end, I think your landscaping goes a long way to softening the hard edges and whatnot. So we can't forget about that. What we see on the rendering is probably no landscaping per se, other than those trees on the east side of the building. So landscaping is going to come into play, just to keep that in mind.
Anyone else?
Chair Schwartz.
Commissioner Knobloch.
Just want to say thanks to the applicant and for the city staff for taking it to another level and putting the work in for it, because I think it's a worthwhile project for our community. So that's it.
All right, do we have a motion to continue that or postpone this?
Chair Schwartz.
Commissioner Casey.
Yeah, I will make a motion that we postpone addressing the site plan in planning case 22-4 to our March 17th.
Second.
22 meeting.
Second was by,
Second.
motion by Casey, a second by Knobloch to continue or postpone the decision on this case until our March 17th meeting. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? And that motion carries. We will rehear the case at our March 17th meeting. Thank you. All right, our next case is planning case 22-5, a site plan for a new industrial building, excuse me, a new industrial building at 94XX East River Road. Scannell Properties. Mr. Brown.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. This project is a site plan for a new multi-tenant industrial building. The location is along the east side of East River Road, really between East River Road and the railroad tracks, in the vicinity of 94th Lane, 95th Avenue. It's some land that's owned currently by John Roberts Company, which operates on the adjacent property to the north, about 8 or so acres. They've held the property for a number of years, have concluded that they don't need it for future expansion, and are in the process of a sale to Scannell Properties, which is looking to develop this new building. Here's the site plan for the proposed building, about 121,000 square feet. It would actually use existing curb cuts off of East River Road, shared driveways both with John Roberts to the north, with Kurt Manufacturing, which is the neighbor to the south. The truck access and dock doors would be on the north side of the building. Parking for passenger vehicles would generally be in the front and along the south side of the building. This site plan, we did notice the John Roberts property as well, just because some of the area to be disturbed does extend onto that property. So that property is actually losing a few parking spaces to accommodate for the truck movements for the new building. We did confirm that that property is currently overparked and will still comply with parking requirements. Stormwater ponding, there will be a couple areas of detention along East River Road, but the main area for ponding is along the railroad tracks on the east side of the site. That too will extend onto the John Roberts property. I'll also note that the city's sidewalk and trail plan calls for a sidewalk along the east side of East River Road at this location. There are currently no sections of that sidewalk have been built to date. So we're proposing that the applicant, and this is in the engineering comments, proposing that the applicant provide an escrow and an easement for that sidewalk and associated snow storage area, so that down the road, when the city is ready to build the sidewalk along that whole stretch, it can be constructed along this property as well. It doesn't make a lot of sense just to build a sidewalk along one property that just dead ends for a number of years. The landscape plan, the site is quite nicely landscaped, meets or exceeds the requirements. Berm along the front parking area to screen that with a good number of trees and shrubs. Trees and shrubs along the south side as well as along the ponding area. Here are the building elevations. So again, a precast building, a few different colors and textures for that. You can see again the north building elevation is where the dock doors are located. I understand that the applicant does not have a specific tenant or tenants at this point. The west elevation, generally facing East River Road, includes a fair amount of windows, kind of an elevated roof line at the corners with entrances, so provides kind of a nice focal point. You can see here some perspective drawings again in the center there, that East River Road facing elevation, which includes a lot of glass. So that's about all I have. A pretty straightforward site plan. No request for variances, flexibility, or anything like that. The applicant, representatives from the applicant are in the audience if you have any questions of them, and certainly I can answer any questions as well.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Commissioner, any questions for Mr. Brown?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Geisler.
Mr. Brown, would we expect to see a shared access agreement with that between John Roberts and the Scannell property, based on the realignment of the parking in the road there?
That's something, we didn't include that as a condition just because both properties do have road access, although it would, that would generally be a good practice and between private property owners, that would be something that would be encouraged.
And then the southerly drive is not going to connect to the Kurt manufacturing site, is that correct? It's kind of hard to tell exactly where, it didn't look like it based on the map, but.
Yeah, let me pull up. Yeah, you're right, as it stands right now, there isn't really road access in back of that site, although the location of that curb cut was such that I believe it's kind of intended, maybe in the future, there would be sharing of that.
Okay. So, but as it's planned today, it's going, Scannell and John Roberts would share that kind of drive curb cut on the north side of the site.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Brown? All right, the petitioner have anything they would like to add? Please come to the microphone, give your name and address for the record, please.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, Dan Salzer with Scannell Properties, address is 294 Grove Lane East, Suite 140, Wayzata. I don't have a lot to add. Matt did a great job. We're really excited about the project. Just one clarification, we do have a shared driveway to the south. Both the existing driveway and the, with John Roberts and Kurt Manufacturing have existing access easements on them. So they've been great partners. We've been working with both John Roberts, obviously, selling the land, but also Kurt Manufacturing with working through some of the access easements and figuring out stormwater, because with an infill site like this, there's a lot of moving parts, and they've been great to work with. So happy to answer any questions if you have them. Otherwise, just want to say thank you for the opportunity.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Casey.
So when you say multi-tenant building, how many are you thinking inside?
Yeah, so we try and design these to be as flexible as we can. So it could be anywhere, could be one tenant, which isn't multi, but could be anywhere from 1 to probably 3 tenants in the building this size.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. All right, thank you.
yep.
And as far as your materials, color renditions, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so we've got a mix of, it's a stained precast panels on the exterior, and it's a mix of different colors. We've tried to address that each entrance has kind of a darker treatment, and then there's 3 entrances along the front of the building. I guess to your question, Commissioner Casey, we don't know exactly, so a lot of times we're trying to design these buildings to be flexible. So if you'll notice, we kind of have these interim treatments between the entrances that theoretically, depending on tenant sizes and where they fall, we could, potentially punch in a future entrance to match the main entrances, so.
Yeah, it looks well designed.
So your entrances then are predominantly one at the left corner, one at the right corner, and then one kind of towards the center?
Yep, exactly.
And are those awnings over the entrances?
Yeah, it's like a architectural metal canopy.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Casey.
So going back to the front perspective on this is, so that we see the 3 highlighted entrances. Are you saying those 2 that are elevated also could be maybe entrances? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
the precast is treated similarly in color, and then, it has the vertical articulation above the roof line.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, the door that's there now is just a personnel door, but those could potentially be cut out and put in a glass door,
Okay.
similar to match the other entrances if we had to, depending on tenant sizes
Yeah,
and whatnot.
that makes for being very versatile,
Yeah.
really.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that.
And is this a one-story building, or,
Yep.
so the treatment or look at the corners is more just architectural to look like a two-story?
Exactly, yeah, it gives it a little bit of office look, and, sometimes tenants, depending on how their space lays out, maybe the entrance into their office might have a higher ceiling height, give that nice natural glass line coming in, and then, there's also some, call them clear story windows, but like along the west facade facing East River Road to let some natural light into the, open warehouse space as well, so.
Chair Schwartz?
Commissioner Knobloch?
I have a question for the applicant. Are there any, with Pope Architects or with you, do you know of any comparable buildings in the Twin Cities area that's comparable to this?
Yes, I mean, we have a lot, so, Scannell, just a little background on Scannell, we've got a little over 1,000 acres around the Twin Cities that, is currently under development, and this is very similar to, several of those buildings. Actually, it's very similar to one we just completed in White Bear. Similar in depth and size, it's one that Pope designed as well. We tried to make it a little bit different, so it's Coon Rapids and not just a mirror image of what we did there, but yeah, very similar to what we're doing elsewhere throughout the metro.
Okay, thank you.
Commission, any other questions for the petitioner at this time? All right, thank you. We may have more for you later.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, I will open a public hearing in planning case 22-5, a site plan for a new industrial building at 94XX East River Road, Scannell Properties. Anyone wish to speak at the public hearing? Anyone wish to speak at the public hearing? And do we have anyone on Zoom?
No, sir.
Thank you. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing and limit comments to the commission. Commission, your thoughts, concerns, opinions?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Geisler.
This is what I would expect for a modern industrial building. It's looking pretty good. It looks like a lot of the developments you see around 610. It looks very similar to what we put in an Ixion not too long ago, as a multi-tenant building. I don't have a whole lot to say other than I think we just want to ask them to get a shared access agreement between the adjacent properties would be the only additional thing I'd put in there for longevity of the site, of the three sites together. Other than that, I think this is good to go.
Chair Schwartz?
Commissioner Knobloch.
I'll make a motion if someone is willing to second it. In planning case 22-5, approved proposed site plan with the following conditions. 1, all engineering comments are addressed. 2, sustainability comments are addressed. And 3, a site security agreement be entered into with the city.
I'll happily second it.
Are we going to add a security,
Shared access.
Shared
a
access.
security access?
Shared access.
Shared access, I'm sorry.
I amend my recommendation to number 4 to add a shared
Shared access.
access agreement
To the south.
at the south entry, yes.
And the north.
And the north, yeah, we want it on both
North and
sides.
south.
Curb cuts, yeah.
Does the second agree with that?
Second agrees.
Motion by Knobloch, second by Heikkila. Any further discussion?
Chair Schwartz?
Commissioner Schmolke.
Do you mind just reading back then, condition number 4, just so we know it's clear? Or can we cite it?
Restate your condition 4.
Amendment to the recommendation, number 4, that to the north and to the south entrances, that there is a shared site agreement access. I don't know if it,
Is that acceptable?
if it meets
Yeah,
legal
is that
muster,
Is that
so.
sufficient?
We're talking about vehicle traffic between the two properties. I would suggest you use the term shared access agreement.
Shared access for the north and south of the property.
Shared access for both north and south driveways.
Curb cuts, or what is it called?
Driveways.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Geisler.
if I may, I would like to amend item 4 to say, a shared access agreement be entered into between all 3 properties, both the property to the north and south of the property under consideration.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Bradley.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to complicate it, but that kind of wording makes it sound like Kurt Manufacturing and John Roberts need to agree with each other, and they have really nothing to
True.
do with it. Each one separately needs a shared access agreement with Scannell.
Correct. I will accept that friendly amendment.
Do we
The
still?
amendment to the amendment?
Yeah, well, that's, yeah.
Are we clear?
A fourth we have a fourth condition.
I think we're
Let's just
struggling with
get
the
it.
wording, we know what we want.
Yeah.
So Commissioner Knobloch made the motion, Commissioner Heikkila seconded that, Commissioner Geisler has now made a recommendation to that motion. I think they need to accept that recommendation, and then the body could act on that motion.
Perfect.
So is the motioner and seconder accept that?
I will accept.
Recommendation.
I accept it. Aye.
Yes.
All right, any further discussion?
No, I'll just say that it's nice to see these types of buildings happening
Yes.
in our city, because the one on Exeon and the one along Highway 10, and this looks very similar to that. And it's nice to see the opportunity for other businesses to come in to the Coon Rapids area.
My only comment would be, it would be nice for staff to try to reiterate to petitioners to bring in material samples and/or colors. Because drawings never really give the true story. So if staff could continue to work with petitioners to reiterate that request, we would greatly appreciate it.
Yes, so noted.
All right, we then have the motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? And the motion carries. This is a decision by the Planning Commission and can be appealed to the City Council within 10 business days if someone so chooses. Otherwise, good luck.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to other business. Mr. Braun, you have anything for other business?
No other business. I can touch on some current development projects. For the March meeting, we've gotten 2 applications in. One is a fairly straightforward lot split for a commercial property, or actually an office property at Round Lake and Coon Rapids Boulevard. There are 2 buildings there, and the property owner is looking to sell one of those and subdividing the property to facilitate that. We also have a site plan application in for redevelopment of the former Golden Corral site on Main Street and Round Lake Boulevard. So that the developer is proposing to replace the existing building with 2 new buildings, each of which would have restaurant tenants in them, although one would have 2 tenants, a restaurant tenant and another tenant. Both would have drive-throughs that, as it stands right now, would kind of loop around the building, so we're working with them a little bit on on that, but it'd be good to see some activity on that currently vacant site. Obviously, the Vista Outdoor project will be coming back to you in March, so we'll have a little bit of an agenda then.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may. One other addition is we will also, I think we talked about the idea of updating the commission on the Mississippi River Critical Corridor area. So that's kind of been on the back burner, and it's an issue that we need to get to in the next couple of months. We have workshopped it with the council last summer, and we're now at a point where we have a draft ordinance that's been reviewed by the DNR, and I think we're at a point where now we can share that with the commission and get your feedback. So that'll be another topic on the agenda.
All right, thank you.
Is that kind of a tutorial thing? Just,
Yeah, I think kind of an explanation of what it is, what's changed. There is currently a critical corridor area with various zoning requirements. This is an updated version, so we'll talk a little bit about what has changed from the
so it's an
current.
ordinance they're working toward?
We have an ordinance and we need to update it.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
And do we have any more information or further update on the replacement for
City planner.
Brown?
our city planner?
Want me to address that?
Sure.
So we are in the process, we have been in the process of going through interviews. We have not made a final decision yet. We had some conversations today. As we know more, I will share more in the next few weeks as we continue on in that process, but we have not made a decision nor made an offer to a candidate at this point.
All right. Thank you. And Commission, anyone have anything for other business?
Move to adjourn?
Second.
Motion by Casey, second by Schmolke. All in favor? Aye. Meeting's adjourned.